I'm certainly not going to backpedal on anything I've said.
They had a body double and they had a face double, and Downey stood off camera reading the lines, and apparently after 2 or 3 weeks he was like, this isn't working. I want to reshoot everything with me in this.
Leaked whispers from the set of Avengers Doomsday Paint, a picture far more explosive than anything Marvel could put on screen.
I'm sorry, I really don't. What are we doing?
Well, I'm just asking questions. That's all.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Downey Jr. demanded reshoots that behind the scenes issues with the actors are due to a clash of egos. Downey Jr. demanded full reshoots. On the latest episode of Hot Mic, Jeff Snyder claims that the production on Avengers Doomsday faced major setbacks involving Robert Downey Jr.
Footage allegedly shows Robert Downey Jr. storming off set after a tense clash with Ryan Reynolds. His words curt and sharp. "I don't know what we're doing. I'm done. Bye." The confrontation didn't just stop there. It reportedly pulled other Avengers into the mix, with many rallying behind Reynolds, igniting a revolt that could push the film's release back by months. But this isn't just a story of two stars clashing. It's a saga about control, ego, and a studio that may have backed itself into a corner. It all started with something that should have been routine: an actor advocating for quality. Robert Downey Jr., the man who built the MCU with Iron Man and is now set to return as Dr. Doom, made a call that would ripple across the entire production. He insisted that every single Doom scene filmed so far needed to be scrapped and reshot.
Claimed tensions erupted when a joking remark allegedly went too far, sparking a heated confrontation that forced Marvel Studios to reshuffle its filming schedule.
Why? Because the earlier footage used a stand-in for both body and face, with Downey reading lines from off-camera. After weeks of reviewing the material, he decided, this isn't working. I need to do it myself in full costume. At first glance, this sounds like a veteran actor doing what he's supposed to do: protect the film's integrity. Hollywood history is filled with projects that tanked because no one dared speak up. Think of Batman v Superman, where even Henry Cavill later admitted he felt uncomfortable but stayed silent. So when Downey pushed for reshoots, it should have been seen as a blessing.
The dysfunction I've heard on this set is rivaled only by that of Fast and Furious movies.
The man has a proven eye for what works, but what followed turned a professional decision into a full-blown crisis. By demanding reshoots, Downey effectively invalidated 4 to 5 weeks of completed work. The movie's schedule blew apart overnight. Many cast members had already been told they were free to take on new projects, but Marvel suddenly pulled them back, saying everything had to be redone. Enter Ryan Reynolds. Not as the quippy Deadpool, but as a businessman with obligations, deadlines, and contracts lined up years in advance. According to multiple insiders, this is where frustrations boiled over. Reynolds had cleared his schedule for Avengers Doomsday, but with the reshoots, he was told, put everything on hold for at least 6 weeks. You can't leave, you can't work on anything else. For Reynolds, that delay wasn't just an inconvenience. At his level, time literally equals millions of dollars. A month and a half meant missed projects, disappointed studios waiting on him, and money lost through no fault of his own.
And there's only one person's way who matters, and that's actually Robert Downey Jr.'s way.
Imagine being locked down for a film whose script, by many accounts, wasn't even finished. Actors were reportedly being handed new pages on the fly, asked to redo scenes, and kept in limbo as Marvel tried to stitch together a coherent story. As one insider put it, it's like trying to build a mansion while the architect is still sketching the blueprints, and then being told to tear down what's already done and start over. This chaotic production created the perfect storm for conflict. You had Downey, a Hollywood legend, demanding perfection, and Reynolds, a powerhouse star, demanding basic professional respect. The two perspectives were valid but completely incompatible. According to sources, tensions finally snapped when a joking remark, innocent or not, crossed the line. Reynolds, famous for using humor to cut tension, apparently made a quip that struck Downey the wrong way. The argument escalated quickly, becoming a heated back and forth between two of the MCU's biggest names. Eventually, Downey whined. Cameras caught him muttering, "I really don't know what we're doing. Okay, bye." And that moment became the spark for a much larger fire. Because this isn't just about one fight, it's about how Disney treats its stars, and the truth is, not everyone gets treated equally. Downey Jr. has long been the MCU's crown jewel. His role as Tony Stark didn't just launch the franchise, it turned Marvel into a global empire. By the time Infinity War and Endgame rolled around, he was pulling in $50 to $100 million per film, dwarfing the salaries of co-stars like Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, and Elizabeth Olsen, who each made a fraction of that. Money is one thing, but insiders say the bigger difference is in how disputes are handled. When Downey demands reshoots, he gets them. When he negotiates for better terms, the studio bends. But when other stars, equally essential in the eyes of fans, raise concerns, they're often stonewalled. Scarlett Johansson's fight with Disney over Black Widow is the clearest example. She sued the studio for breaching her contract by releasing the film on streaming, while it was still in theaters, undercutting her box office bonuses. Disney's response: instead of accommodating her, they publicly blasted her, calling her lawsuit callous. Compare that to how Downey's demands are quietly met, no matter the cost. And so the Reynolds-Downey feud isn't just about two actors' egos clashing. It's a symptom of something much bigger, a hierarchy inside Marvel Studios, where certain stars are untouchable and others are treated as expendable. For Reynolds, the stakes are higher than just one delayed project. His frustration is rooted in a career built on professionalism and honoring commitments. To be told to sit still, lose money, and watch opportunities vanish, while another actor's perfectionism rewrites the rules, for him it's not just unfair, it's a betrayal. For Downey, it's the opposite. He believes the MCU only survives if its films maintain a certain standard. To him, reshooting wasn't ego, it was necessity. And with his legacy tied to this character's return, he wasn't willing to settle. Two visions, two approaches, both valid, both immovable, and when immovable objects collide, something has to give. In this case, what gave was the set itself. Downey stormed out, Reynolds dug in, and Marvel found itself forced to reshuffle schedules, rework timelines, and brace for the fallout. But as big as this fight is, it's only the beginning, because what's really at stake here isn't just one movie. It's the future of the entire MCU and whether Disney can keep its empire from crumbling under the weight of its own stars. The Scarlett Johansson lawsuit against Disney in 2021 remains one of the clearest examples of the imbalance in how Marvel stars are treated. When Disney released Black Widow simultaneously in theaters and on Disney+, Johansson claimed it directly violated her contract, which tied a large portion of her earnings to box office revenue. According to her, this move cost her tens of millions of dollars. The case eventually settled for over $40 million. But what stood out most wasn't the payout, it was how Disney chose to respond. Instead of negotiating quietly, Disney came out swinging, publicly revealing that Johansson had already been paid $20 million and implying that her complaint was insensitive during the pandemic. Critics immediately called out the studio for attempting to weaponize public perception by throwing around big numbers. The logic was simple. If the average person hears that an actress made $20 million, they'll instinctively think she's being greedy for asking for more. But what that defense conveniently ignored is that Johansson's contract had been structured in a way where the bulk of her income depended on ticket sales. Disney had changed the terms after the fact, and when she demanded fair compensation, they tried to shame her in the court of public opinion. Now ask yourself, could you ever imagine Disney treating Robert Downey Jr. the same way? Of course not. The studio knows full well that they need him far more than he needs them. That is the double standard at the heart of this controversy. Johansson later explained how isolating it felt to go up against Disney's legal machine. She described the experience as lonely and exhausting, but also said she was determined to see it through so other actors wouldn't have to fight the same battle. Her statement that she was happy no one else will have to deal with what I had to deal with perfectly encapsulates the imbalance. The fact is, Disney would never put someone like Downey Jr. in that position in the first place. Elizabeth Olsen's career highlights a different side of this inequality. Olsen has openly discussed how Marvel contracts restricted her opportunities outside the MCU. For example, in 2015 she was forced to pass on a role in Yorgos Lanthimos' acclaimed film The Lobster, because her Marvel commitments made it impossible. She described that missed opportunity as heartbreaking, and revealed that the longer she stayed tied to Marvel's restrictive agreements, the further she drifted from the kind of projects that defined her as an actor. As a result, Olsen developed a strategy. She refused to sign long multi-picture deals and instead opted for short-term extensions. On paper, this might look like her being non-committal, but in reality, it was a survival tactic. By keeping her Marvel obligations limited, she could claw back at least some creative freedom. Compare this to Downey Jr., who never had to compromise. Marvel built schedules around him, not the other way around. His time was treated as invaluable, while someone like Olsen had to fight tooth and nail just to keep the door open to other work. Jeremy Renner's story is perhaps the most shocking. After dedicating more than a decade to playing Hawkeye, surviving a near-fatal snowplow accident, and headlining his own Disney Plus series, Renner was approached about doing a second season. But according to him, Disney offered him half the salary he received for season 1, while expecting the same grueling 8 months of work. Renner himself put it bluntly, so basically twice the work for half the pay. He turned the offer down, not out of arrogance, but because it was insulting. When you stack Renner's situation against Downey Jr.'s, the disparity becomes crystal clear. While Renner was being asked to take a pay cut after proving his commitment and even risking his life, Downey Jr.'s negotiating massive paydays. Reports claim his return as Dr. Doom in Avengers Secret Wars will net him upwards of $80 million, not including bonuses. For Disney, Downey is the ultimate problem solver. When the Jonathan Majors situation with Kang collapsed, they turned back to their golden boy, ready to hand him another fortune to keep the MCU machine running. This pattern shows exactly why resentment is boiling over. It isn't just about dollars, though the numbers are telling. It's about respect. Some actors are treated like royalty, while others are treated like disposable parts of a giant corporate machine. Insiders point out that Disney believes Downey is unique because his presence alone can drive billions in revenue. And while it's true that Iron Man launched the MCU and Downey became the face of the franchise, this reasoning ignores the collective effort that made Marvel successful. Audiences didn't show up for just one actor. They showed up for the interconnected universe as a whole. By over-rewarding Downey while undervaluing the rest, Disney has created an environment where tension is inevitable. The ongoing drama on the set of Avengers Doomsday, with rumors of scripts being rewritten mid-production, entire sequences scrapped because Downey demanded reshoots, and delays causing chaos for actors like Ryan Reynolds, makes more sense when viewed through this lens. It isn't just about creative disagreements or scheduling snafus. It's the natural consequence of a system where one actor's demands outweigh everyone else's professional commitment. Reports even suggest that Disney bent over backward to accommodate Downey's wish to personally reshoot weeks of Dr. Doom scenes, despite the scheduling nightmare it caused. Meanwhile, Reynolds and others were left hanging, forced to delay or cancel other projects while Marvel sorted out the mess. This imbalance where one star's creative whims are prioritized while others bear the fallout is at the core of the issue. And this brings us back to the confrontation between Reynolds and Downey. Sources claim a joke gone wrong escalated into a heated argument, with script issues and delays adding fuel to the fire. Seen in isolation, it might look like just another Hollywood clash of ego, but placed in the broader context of Disney's favoritism and double standards, it's clear that the fight was about more than personalities. It was about a broken system. What happened on Avengers Doomsday is the direct result of years of inequality. Some actors were made gods, while others were treated as replaceable. That imbalance is now threatening to tear apart the very fabric of Marvel's universe, and as we'll explore in the next section, Disney's response to this crisis could decide the future of the MCU itself. None of the lead actors ever physically shared a set, yet through editing tricks and digital compositing, the illusion was maintained. On the surface, the film still looks like a traditional ensemble piece, but peel back the curtain, and it reveals something far more troubling. A blockbuster of this scale, built on the foundation of collaboration and on-screen chemistry, is now forced to rely on visual trickery just to keep its stars apart. That isn't just inconvenient, it's an alarming sign of how deep these fractures have become. If two of the studio's most bankable names can't be in the same room together, what does that say about the creative integrity of the project? What does it mean for the chemistry audiences expect from a Marvel crossover, a franchise built specifically on ensemble energy? Instead of addressing the core issue, a toxic system of favoritism, financial disparity, and unchecked egos, Disney has chosen to bend the production process itself. Industry whispers confirm the fallback plan. If tensions can't be managed, keep rewriting the script to minimize overlap between Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Reynolds, restructure sequences to isolate them, and when unavoidable, stitch together their performances digitally. That isn't filmmaking in the traditional sense. It's damage control, a compromise born not out of artistic vision, but corporate necessity. Why? Because both actors are simply too valuable to lose. Downey was handed a contract worth more than the annual GDP of a small country to resurrect himself within the MCU as Dr. Doom. Reynolds, meanwhile, has Deadpool locked in as one of Marvel's most reliable assets. Moving forward, Disney cannot afford to lose either of them. So the studio bends, reshapes, and contorts to keep them happy, regardless of what that does to the craft of cinema itself. On paper, this seems like a pragmatic decision. Keep the stars happy, protect the investment, keep the money flowing. But when you step back, the cracks in this logic show. By allowing the biggest names to essentially dictate terms, Disney has created an environment where productions can be held hostage. Instead of establishing a clear set of expectations that apply to all talent equally, the studio has made its priorities clear: profits first, professional standards second. The truth of how this conflict will likely resolve is even uglier. Insiders predict that, at the end of the day, everyone will make nice. Why? Because in this system, Disney doesn't need to compromise. They control the career. For actors like Reynolds and Downey, whose cultural and financial status still hinges on their Marvel roles, falling out of line isn't really an option. Disney has the power to freeze them out, slow their careers, or quietly ensure they're not attached to major future projects. The threat is unspoken, but very real: comply or risk your career. This approach isn't built on respect or collaboration. It's built on fear, leverage, and control. What makes the Downey-Reynolds clash different is that it broke containment. The public found out, and once the public is aware, Disney can't simply lean on quiet pressure and NDAs. They have to manage perception too. That means juggling not only an already chaotic production, but also the narratives spinning across social media. And social media has amplified every rumor. Posts on Reddit, X, and forums speculate about unfinished scripts, chaotic rewrites, and the clash of creative styles between Downey's high-leverage demands and Reynolds' improvisational Deadpool approach. In another era, Disney could have stamped this out with traditional press management. But in today's digital landscape, once the story is out, it spreads faster than any official rebuttal. The narrative takes on a life of its own. The danger for Disney isn't just this one film, it's the precedent. If the studio continues to reward problematic behavior with more money, more accommodation, and more creative control, what happens next? Every star will see that disruption leads to better deals. Every actor will realize that conflict is leverage. That dynamic doesn't build stability, it builds chaos. The irony is brutal. In trying to maintain order, Disney may be undermining the very structure that made the MCU successful in the first. The franchise was built on camaraderie, on actors who felt like a family, on audiences believing the chemistry was real both on and off screen. If that illusion collapses, what remains is just a patchwork of expensive stars filmed separately, glued together with digital trickery, and marketed as epic storytelling. The Reynolds-Downey conflict may be remembered as the moment the system finally broke, the moment the imbalance of power, the unchecked favoritism, and the corporate-first mindset created a fracture too big to patch over with reshoots and CGI. Whether Disney can navigate this without long-term damage to the MCU remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the trust, the respect, and the collaborative foundation that made the franchise what it was may already be gone. This isn't just about two stars fighting, it's about a system crumbling under the weight of its own contradiction. And as audiences, we may be watching not only the unraveling of a film, but the unraveling of the very machine that has dominated Hollywood for over a decade.